Welcome, everybody, to episode 23 of the Under 1 Million podcast, the podcast based off of the Deserving playlist series on Spotify. I am here with my guest who I've placed on that list on one occasion with the record Burner Phone, which he produced, and that was Cap Calis on the vocals for that. Take it away, my man.
What's up, man? So this is Optiks, producer, engineer, originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, based in Brooklyn, New York. And yeah, man, been doing it for a while. I know you said you typically have like artists on here, and we're interested to have a producer. So, you know, I gave the prelude before. I'm down for, we can get nerdy and into the production and mixing stuff, or we can, you know, just talk shit, like whatever, you know, it's going to be.
For sure.
Should be very interesting.
Hell yeah, I'm open to anything.
Cool. And, you know, I've been doing this for a long time. Started when I was in high school. I'm 36 now. And, you know, worked with, so Cap Calis, how I ended up here. And, you know, done a lot of work over the years with artists such as my guy Blitz the Ambassador, John Connor, Helter Skelter, Buckshot, Talib Kweli, Styles P.
Name dropping.
You know, you got to do that at the beginning, kind of like, you know, like those, a lot of those things aren't even the things that make me who I am as a producer, but, you know, you got to let people know that you're a little bit serious with this, you know, like,
of course.
Like this is something I take real, oh shit, there goes my light.
It's all good.
Something I take serious, you know, and so yeah, gotta let people know. Got a couple credits there, so stay tuned.
No, I feel you, and nothing wrong with that. You're right.
Hip-hop I didn't remember them all either. Oh, what? I mean, one of the things I wanted to talk about, just did Joey Cool's new single on Strange featuring Tech N9ne. So that just came out, like last month?
For sure. I've heard it, and I think that record is amazing. But before we get into that, let's just get this out of the way. I want to ask how you're doing, how life has been treating you, how you've gotten through all of the craziness that's going on right now.
I'm doing good, man. You know, like I've been really lucky. I have a place to live, you know, I've stayed, you know, other than the music stuff, stayed employed during this pandemic, and actually started a new job right before everything started. So like had some, like, just outside of music, some new interesting challenges in life that I've been able to enjoy. And yeah, man, my kids, who you might hear in the background, they might pop in on us, who knows. They're all doing good. I have 3 kids, 2 who stay with me. And I mean, getting through the pandemic, just lots of music, you know, lots of whiskey. I'm a whiskey drinker.
That's what I'm talking about.
And yeah, man, that, you know, I got a backyard. We're out here in Brooklyn, so having a backyard's something that we're lucky to have. So that's a nice thing that got us through too. And I mean, how about you? So you're in Florida. I know we discussed.
I am, yeah. South Florida. Things never really changed here, I'll be honest. It was just kind of like it kept on going.
Now, my oldest son actually lives in Florida. He's in Orlando.
Okay.
So yeah, I stayed there for 3 years. That's actually how I know Cap, because Cap's from South Florida. Like, did you know Cap before, or you just came across his music later on?
No, I didn't. I came across Cap just looking through Instagram. I reach out to a lot of guys just trying to make contacts and you know, play good music, stuff that I think is good. And I thought he was super talented. So yeah, I just
okay, dope. That's crazy. But yeah, Cap's from South Florida, so I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, I wonder if you guys know each other from way back or something.
No, not at all. And I honestly didn't even know he was from South Florida. So
he's from Fort Lauderdale.
Well,
but I mean, he's been out in LA about, you know what, I think he was out there for like a decade. He's in Vegas now. You know, I was in Orlando, from end of 05 to middle of 08, but I've been in Brooklyn ever since.
Gotcha.
But yeah, Florida is where we really started, you know, making our chops. There's a lot of talent in Florida, and like, you know, honestly, like more concentrated than anywhere else I've been. Like, it really pushed me to hone my craft. The people I was around, like guys like X144 and Da Vinci from Soliloquist of Sound. And
I get the
my dude Midas the Beast.
I get the vibe up in like more northern, or I guess, you know, Orlando, Central Florida, whatever you want to say. Especially in Orlando, I feel like there's more of like a community vibe up there than there is down here in South Florida.
Yeah,
at
I
least
mean,
where I'm at.
I don't know as much down there. You know, like I know I've done a little bit of work with like the Mayday guys. You know, Recognize
Yeah.
and but yeah, I'm not as familiar with the area. And I was broke when I was in Florida. I was broke, so I went to Miami, and I hated it because I couldn't do anything. You know.
Yo, I always say the same exact thing. Every time I go to Miami, I have like the worst time ever. And it's like, I don't know how people spend this money out here.
Yeah, I'm like, I need to go back sometime, you know, when I'm not like eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day. You know,
I feel you.
It'll be better.
No, I'm in that same boat. But how did you enjoy Florida? Because like I've always liked living in Florida, and I've been one to usually say like I never want to leave. I'm gonna be a Florida guy for life. But like I don't know, man. That's starting to change a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I was there for 3 years. I got out of there, so I enjoyed my time there. But for me, I've always been very, especially when I was younger, very like had a lot of tunnel vision for music. And you know, I feel like I quickly reached kind of the peak for like, particularly for like independent hip hop that I could meet when I was there. Like it was kind of like, for what I was trying to do, I didn't feel like there was too much further to go being in Orlando. You know, there was a great community there, but I didn't see a lot of potential for growth as a producer there. And that's not like a slight to the talent, because there was talent. You know, it just was, I wanted to set my sights on different things. And I mean, had some success with that. And also, you know, there's some things where I'm like, man, it would have been cool to like stay in Orlando and really like try to build this up. Cause now we got guys like, you know, Nico who's a little younger than me, coming up there. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's really dope.
Yeah,
Really,
I placed him on the list too one time, I think.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah,
and I've worked on a couple joints with him. You know, he came through the house. We know through Cap. Him and Cap are good friends. So like, I just
that's how I
popped up
came across
at one of his
too.
shows. I think I had a flask or something with me. We like had a drink, and I was like, oh, where we finally got to meet. And you know, came through. My girl cooked, and we cooked up some music that should be releasing sometime soon. But you know, so it's like there's a lot of new talent coming up there. Thanks Joey, his producer is really dope, you know, as well. You know, so it's like there's a lot of potential for the scene there, and I do think about that too. I'm like, oh man, could have been a cool thing to build up too.
I agree with that, and definitely. But I wanted to kind of get to the point where I down here in like I'm in West Palm now, or Palm Beach,
Okay.
but I grew up in Broward. Like I was Deerfield Beach. It was only like 15 minutes from Fort Lauderdale, where Cap's from, and it's just kind of like it's all just like menial interactions that I get with other artists. A lot of artists just talking, oh, I'm gonna do this. Yeah, man, let's work, let's do some stuff together, blah blah blah. Nothing ever really comes of it.
Well, yeah, and that's everywhere. That's even in New York. You know, we got everything, every outlet is at the disposal. But you know, you still, if you don't know anybody, if you're not like kind of born into it, or you know, it's kind of like it's very, very mafioso-esque. You know, if you're not a made guy, you're gonna have a lot of trouble making leeway, whether you're in Florida or New York. It doesn't really matter.
Absolutely, I agree. That's a definite struggle being an independent guy with no pull. but so meeting Cap here, what brought you into making the record with him? The record I placed, Burner Phone. How did that kind of all come together?
Burner Phone. I mean, me and Cap have made so much music together over the years. Like, you know, I've been working with him basically. So like when I moved down to Florida, 2005, I was 20 years old, and I went on MySpace and literally just looked up all the artists in Orlando, and you know, friend requested everybody. And this was like literally first day I moved there, because I'd been in Ohio before, and I kind of, you know, I'd made a bit of a name for myself in Cleveland scene. I was in school at Kent State. So me and Cap, like Godimus Rhyme from Cap's group Caveman Theory at the time, hit me right back, invited me over to their house, had the studio and everything, and we just started working. And you know, then me and Cap were roommates for a while. We worked on some music then, had a studio in the house. And then even when I moved to New York, like it would slow down, but we'd still, mainly we work in person. I don't do a lot of email back and forth. I don't really like doing that. Burner Phone actually was an email beat though, because of the pandemic. So that's one that was just like, I was really making a lot of, so like the beginning of like, you know, like March last year was a lot of like working out in the morning. It was like jail in my house. Like it was a full house of people. We're playing just like all Mobb Deep, Wu-Tang, working out in the morning. Me and my dude, Joe, me and Joe Scheme, he was staying with us. And so that was like that music that I like grew up on, and that was like comfort food. So that's like all I was listening to in that time period. And so that came out in what I was making too. So that was actually a beat that I made like in April of last year, and just felt really good. And I actually did a Tribe Called Quest blend with it. Every once in a while I'll do like blends for Instagram. So I did a Tribe Called Quest blend with that went over really well. But I was like, okay, I want to use this for something too. So I sent it to Cap in a batch of beats, and he recorded it. He's got a little studio set up in his house, and not really much else to it. That was that. He did a verse, and then I was like, hey, throw some ad libs on there. He did some ad libs, and record was done. Like it was one of the, it was not a difficult record to make, you know. He just kind of did it, and that was that.
No, that beat flowed. It definitely was an easy listening beat. But that's my shit. That's like, I don't know. For me, a lot of times I don't feel like listening to something that is like all in my face. It's chaos and all, you know, these like drill beats these days and all this stuff. There's just too much going on. Not to say that I don't like it for certain moods, but I like to relax, man. I'm in my 30s too, so all that wild shit, that's not me anymore. So, so I feel you on that.
Yeah, I like hard aggressive shit, but it's same. I like it to, you know, kind of make sense. There needs to be something that reels you in, like some kind of sound or texture to reel you in. Absolutely. And I feel like if everything's synthetic in the beat, it's hard to get that. And I do a lot of trap beats too. Like, I mean, me and Cap got a joint with Ritz that came out last year called Bag. That's like definitely more of a trap joint. And like probably my favorite song we ever did together is 30 Pack with Leah Mack. And like that's just, you know, a little more laid back, but still more of like an 808 trap joint. So it's like I'm not gonna even knock anything because I do it all. I mean, it's all hip hop.
Right, yeah.
But like it's you know, like lost my train of thought a little bit on that one, but
don't worry about it. Before I go a little further into your style as a producer, I do want to ask you, because you mentioned when you originally moved to Florida, you just hit up everybody, started, you know, messaging people, whatever. What was your response from that? Because a lot of times when I reach out to people, they think I'm trying to, you know, whatever, get over, I'm swindle them or something. But
yeah, well,
what was your experience with
this? Was still, you know, remember this is like 05, so this is early.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
You know, people were a little more open, and you know, I got response. Like I remember, not everybody hit me back, but like my guy Murdoch from Orlando, super dope. He won what was the Wake Up Show challenge. He got to go freestyle on the Wake Up Show with Kanye West, and like you know, he's dope MC from Orlando.
I've heard of him.
He had hit me back too. You know, there was a few people that hit me back, but you know, it's like now, you know, it's people. I definitely, anybody that hits me in my DMs and it goes to that other folder, you know, not your primary, that other folder, like I'll go through there and it's like, I just think, I don't care what you say in there. I think it's, you're definitely like trying to scam me. And then, you know, I'll read it and maybe that's not the case, but that's what I usually would assume. But I didn't get much of that then. I don't think everybody hit me back, but pretty much everybody I reached out to, I'm friends with now.
Oh, no, like I said, and I didn't really think about the time difference, but these
days.
And
also MySpace, you know, remember you got your music up there. So it's like I had like my 4, they click on my profile. First thing they see is, you know, it's like my picture and then 4 joints. So it's like I had my hottest 4 joints that I produced for, so Blitz the Ambassador, I started working with him actually at Kent State in like 04. And he's now, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's now a director and he's directing the new Color Purple movie with Steven Spielberg and Oprah.
That's
so
dope.
From indie rap to that. And, you know, but when it comes to music, he comes and records in my studio / laundry room, you know? So,
Right.
but we've been working together like almost 20 years now. But so I had, you know, really good, well-produced professional music up on my page. So it's like, if you were going to even be curious and hit that, you'd be like, oh shit, like,
I honestly didn't think about
there's
that.
something to this, you know?
I was still in the Instagram mindset. I wasn't even thinking MySpace, man. And that's, hey, MySpace.
Hey, we don't think about MySpace too much now.
RIP MySpace, but yeah, you know, you held it down for a while. I like the customization options too in MySpace. Like you said, you can put your music right at the top.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got your playlist and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Hey, I'm gonna start a petition to bring MySpace back. But
I mean, it's still there. You don't want to.
That's true.
I've gone back to my MySpace page. My computer like started coughing. Like it was just like, what are you doing to me? Like,
no.
You get viruses just from looking at it.
That's for sure. What is MySpace turned into like a music thing, didn't it? Like totally?
I don't really know. They might have tried. I don't know what they tried to do. They tried to do some shit.
Either way, we can get away from MySpace. We're gonna get Tom popping up in my DM soon. But so yeah, I know you mentioned to me before we got on this podcast, when I reached out to you, you have an upcoming album with Cap Calis. Is there any type of information you can give me of what kind of vibes we're going to be hearing stylistically in that?
Yeah, I mean, well, you heard Burner Phone. That's going to be on there. So it's definitely, it's in that vein. It's not, it's Cap. It's very dark, very personal, maybe a little more like East Coast and like gritty sounding than people are used to from him for the most part. But that's, this is an album with me, and I'm on the East Coast. So
wow, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, but I'll say, it's got a lot of lush instrumentation, but a lot of just dirty samples. I'm really, really serious about being in my crates. Like when it comes to producing, like I love sampling. I love finding like just the nastiest, dustiest records and making something out of it. Like, and like that's really what I do on anything I produce for the most part, with exceptions. Like, the Joey and Tech joint, they didn't want any samples, so that's something different. But even the drums on that, like I hit them with my drums, So yeah, it's hard, it's gritty, it's dark. Next joint that we drop is chaotic in a good way.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm still down with the chaos sometimes. So don't think
Yeah, it's like I won't say. I don't want to hype it up too much. So I won't say anything else. I'm gonna say some wild shit. But it's dope. It's one of my favorite joints that I've done with him. And we got some smooth shit on there too. Like, Cap's like, the thing about Cap is he's a really great songwriter. He's one of the best lyricists and songwriters I've ever worked with. He can write a pop song. Like he has written all kinds of like pops. He has stuff that I'm just like, oh man, like this is so good, so bigger than like the kind of stuff that I do. Even, he's got like really great range as an artist and writer. I mean, he's been in the studio with some greats and thrown him a couple lines or two here and there too. So
it comes across in his music, and something you mentioned before about yourself, the real instrumentation behind your production that just shines through, because obviously a lot of producers these days, they're just plugging away on a keyboard making beats, a lot of different electronic, whatever it is. But did you have a background in actually playing instruments?
Not too much. Really? Like I took a little bit of piano as a kid, but like I'm not nice at it. But like so producing for Blitz is from Ghana, and like always was bringing in. He started off more just bringing in live instrumentation, kind of like we were influenced by like Kanye West at the time, and like College Dropout, late registration era. So we'd have like a violin on something. We were in the studio, bringing musicians into like a nice studio. But I mean, from there, it really evolved more so I started doing that with him, but then like my friend Sean Kantrowitz started coming through to me in Cap's house down in Florida and playing on a lot of stuff. He's a guitarist and he'd play keys. And like, so he now, has been on like Sia and Kelly Clarkson and Dr. Dre records. And like, he's just an incredible musician. And that just made it was always something that even though I was more of like a dusty sounding style, like with the always sampling everything, like it's always something that I don't put a limitation on myself. Oh, everything's got to be what I can, the beat that I can make. You want to make something big, you get live instruments on it. So it's like I actually make my beats in a really weird way, because I'll be on like a little old laptop. I don't even use like my studio monitors or anything, just like make a beat real quick to get a vibe. But it's like from there, taking into Pro Tools, and like sky's the limit. I'm not afraid to try to punch above my weight class a little bit.
That's dope. And maybe that's where it comes from, and just like you said, making it on an old laptop. Like, what program do you use originally? And then
Fruity Loops.
Fruity Loops. So there you go. I feel like it just gives like a different sound. I don't know. Like when I've heard you originally, and now I've basically listened to your entire catalog.
Oh yeah, essentially.
Yeah, and
thank you.
There's just something about it. It just sounds different to me. I don't really know what I can say to pinpoint it, but I don't know. Maybe it is the crate digging and all that. Because I can only imagine how difficult that is these days. Everybody sampled everything that's ever existed, I feel like. Like, how hard is it to come across?
You got to hit the dollar bins. You got to hit the dollar bins. And like, so my guy, Mean Joe Scheme, like he's started digging for records now too. So like me and him are actually producing an artist, friend of ours, Louis the Prophet, out here in New York ourselves. So like, he'll go, him and his girl will go and like just buy a bunch of dollar bin records. And, oh, this looks cool. A lot of like Spanish music and like music. He's Dominican, a lot of music from DR and stuff. Like we'll just find different sources. Like everything's been sampled. That's like kind of like easy, but there's a lot more out there. Like I love finding the new gems, and some stuff that's been sampled already, you can flip in a new way.
True, that is very true. How long would you say you put in to trying to find that sample, if that makes sense to you? I mean, that one.
I mean, my process, we're practically doing my process now. Pour a drink, we go, we talk. Because I like making beats on the spot. I don't really like making beats by myself. I don't really like sending people emails of beats and stuff like that. Pandemic made me be a little more flexible with it, but like basically my rule is, you want to work with me, you got to come to Brooklyn, you got to come to my house. With there can be exceptions when that makes sense, but that's the main rule. And so pour a drink, if you smoke, whatever, and listen to records, or I might have some like rough ideas ready to go but not fleshed out yet. And I like to have conversations with people about life, music, and use that to know where I'm going to try to take them musically.
Gotcha.
So, like session a couple weeks ago, like I ended up pulling up a beat from '07 and just taking out one piece of it. I don't even remember what the conversation was, but just based off the conversation, I was like, oh, I got to find this thing. And I have a good memory for just remembering every beat I ever make. So I'm like, oh, this crazy jazz sample on this beat I made in 2007. If I put some new drums, I bet that would be dope. And so I went and pulled it up, and the joint's crazy. I can't wait to release it. So that's kind of it. It's once you find that moment, you just know. So like I'll listen to records forever, and I'll hear a bunch of dope shit. Me and Joe will sit in the studio, listen to records, and it's like something jumps out. It's just like, oh, stop everything. We got to make this now.
I feel you. It is a feeling, man. And you get in the studio, if you don't feel it, it's going to turn out like trash.
You want to make moments,
Exactly.
It's like all the greatest music in the world is moments. If it's not, and if you let the moment come to you, it's going to give people that, if you're feeling excited and inspired, that's going to be in the music, and that feeling is going to be passed along to the listener. If it sounds like, oh, somebody sent me this beat and I wrote a rap to it, it sounds like if you got to put some spontaneity into it, otherwise it's going to sound like you're doing your homework.
100%. I love it. You've dropped a lot of names that I've known and followed for a very long time already. And I want to know what it feels like to kind of be, and I think this has got a lot of producers' feelings on it, but like a lot of people don't even know who produced a lot of records.
Mhm.
So like what are your thoughts on that and the whole producer don't get a lot of shine type of
Um,
deal? Because that's a big thing. A lot of people say they don't, which they don't. I agree. But I think that is changing slowly. So what are your thoughts on that whole
yeah,
deal?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you gotta you gotta be a little okay with that. Like, I don't expect everybody to know what I'm doing. And it's also like the stuff with Cap. Me and him are doing a Cap and Optiks album for that reason too. Because I'm like, okay, I would like to brand myself a little bit. I have an instrumental project on the way too. I have like a compilation, like EP that I want to put out. So, I'd like to brand myself to an extent as well, but you know the music comes before my ego at all times. And I learned that early, working with Blitz. He's an artist. I like working with artists who know where they're trying to go, and I help them get there. And, sometimes now I'm getting to the point where sometimes I'll have an idea where I want them to go. And I've gotten to the point where that's what I can do. Like, I used to basically co-produce every joint with Blitz that I would do. And now, the last several songs we've done, it's been more like, I'm calling in horn players to play something, or like I'm doing all the things that he used to do on the tracks, and he's kind of like, yeah, you did it, so let's I can just be a rapper. And so yeah, I've definitely had moments where the blog era was funny with that. Like right now, it's like producers don't really get a whole lot of credit with Spotify. You got to really look to see it, if it's there at all. But the blog era, I remember being upset. I did a song with like a big feature, and my name wasn't on hardly any of the press releases. And I was, it's something I was doing for free, and there was already a little tension there. So I felt kind of upset about that. But it's like, that stuff that's been happening forever.
Yeah.
You talk to any of the greats, like they've all done stuff they didn't get credit for. Like, you ever watch DJ Premier's got this So What's Up series on YouTube?
Yeah.
And I didn't, he was there for the mastering. He like oversaw the mastering of Illmatic. And it's like, nobody ever knew that he did that. Nobody ever knew he was sitting there with the mastering engineer making sure that shit went well. That's not really a credit.
That's true.
That's not a credit. There's no like guy who cared the most credit in the book,
Right.
No,
you're right about that.
And like, I'm like, that's amazing to hear about all these years later. Like, oh, you cared enough that you like went and, I don't know if I told him to do that. I feel like he probably just was like, he had enough experience. Like, I got to go. Let's not let this classic album get fucked up in the last step. I'm going to go. I got you. I'm going to go sit there,
It's I think it takes a special kind of person, honestly. If I being honest with myself, artists in general, I've always felt this way, that are a little bit more they're more vain. They need that credit. They want to be the forefront, which someone has to be, and that's the way branding works. You know what I mean? It's
and if they're a great artist, it's easy to relinquish that to them, because it's like, then it's a symbiotic relationship. Like producers, engineers, we're putting in more hours of work, but it's not more valuable than what artists do. So it's also a thing, like, like I sell beats to people sometimes, but I also really value working with an artist, like working with Cap, working with Joe Blitz, to create something together, and then you are both sharing that and reaping the benefits together. And that's something that I really value as a producer, more so than like just giving somebody a price. And I mean, there's some dope artists that have bought beats from me, and you gotta be dope for me to even want to sell a beat to you.
Of course. I think that's the right approach. I mean, I've that's how I get most of my beats. I work in studio with very few, but it's it is something that's not genuine about it. You know what I mean? I do try to make connections with producers, and like I said, I've been trying to get a producer on this show for a long time, and
Yeah.
you're the first one to agree. I've had people, some turn me down for the very reason of it's just not me. I don't want to be on camera. No, I'm good. But yeah, it does take something special to make a real connection, and that's where the best music shines through. But that brings me to a question. Have you ever had any in-studio experiences that don't go the way that you're hoping? And how did that all come about?
Yeah, I mean, I'll share. I think I got an experience I can share. So, artist I was working with, John Connor, got signed to Aftermath, and I flew out to LA to work on his project. And, you know, I had a bunch of beats ready, just played him a bunch of shit, and that I had prepared. And, you know, I'm out there for a week, and then we finished playing the beats, and the engineer was like, all right, what do you want me to pull up? And he ended up pulling up something from like another producer to work on something that, like, one of the other guys that like the Aftermath A&R had given him. That was a really humbling moment, you know, where like I was out there to work and I kind of just had to spectate, you know, and there was some hot joints I played him. You know, I actually, you know, I've gotten to hear some of those beats again. And I'm like, oh man, like looking back, I'm like, at the time I felt so kind of rejected by that. But looking back, I'm like, oh, like I had some shit. It wasn't a good match. But that was like a pretty crushing moment, you know, and you got to understand, like, not every producer's for everybody. You know, a lot of my favorite artists, I don't know that I'd really have anything, like if I was just going to go through beats, like I don't know that I'd have anything for them. You know, if we connect as people and work together, no doubt I'll have something dope for anybody. But it's like, as far as just like pulling up a folder of beats for somebody, that's not really the wave for me.
No, I feel you.
But, you know, learning that, you know, that so going back to that, like what I viewed as like a failure at that time, you know, it also shaped, you know, this was 2014, and I started doing much more of like an in-person approach and working with more artists in New York right after that. And I've just grown so much as a producer in that time, and had so many more opportunities come to me without me chasing them, that like, and, you know, it's from seeing how things operated there. You know, I kind of modeled my house, the way I run the studio in my house, off the experience of being in Dr. Dre's studio and like seeing how things work in that environment. And I'm like, oh, like I can do this in my way.
Right.
It was something that like I feel really lucky to have seen, even if it wasn't a good experience at the time.
It makes sense. How, in the moment, how it, like anything that, because like you said, it was hard. It was kind of like whoa, that a hard thing to take at the time.
Mm-hmm.
How do you absorb all that emotionally, mentally, whatever it is? And what was it about that experience that made you say, like, you know what, I can do this on my own and do it in my own way and be successful with this?
I needed time. Honestly, I came back from LA and I was, you know, feeling pretty depressed about it, and I just took a break. I've always been a guy who was constantly making beats. Sometimes, you know, like I felt like I wasted my day if I didn't make a beat.
Gotcha.
You know, and, you know, it's like I had at this point 2 kids. You know, I was a stay-at-home dad, and it was it forced me to kind of step back and live a little more life outside of music. So I actually went like 2 months where I only made 1 or 2 beats. I played basketball almost every day, just like at the park in my neighborhood, and, you know, kind of just like changed my perspective. And then I came back fresh and working with new people, and, you know, some of them stuck, some of them didn't, but like all the experience though was invaluable.
Right.
And like, you know, everybody I've worked with, whether it's somebody I want to work with again or not, has contributed to make me a better producer.
That's dope. I love hearing stories like that. Honestly, it's you know, it's growth, and I try to learn from everybody's experiences.
And you need to be resilient. You know, it's like things don't work exactly how you think. You know, you got to figure out what you really want, because, you know, seeing how the major label system works, I'm like, I'm not opposed to being involved with things in that world, but I know I don't want to be in that rat race all the time. I know I have zero interest in that. Just 100%. Not what I want to be doing.
So how do you separate the two with what you're doing currently and you know, keeping yourself from falling into that again?
I do what I want to do.
Hey.
Yeah, like
simple.
yeah. No, I mean, it sounds simple, but like, you know, and it is hard. Like, you know, it's easy to get caught up. Like, you get excited about something, you start working on it, and you realize you're falling into an old pattern, and it's like, okay, no, I don't want to give away this much time to something that doesn't speak to me personally. And then you can refocus on what you really want to be doing. It's like, you know, I want all the music I make, I want to love all the music I work on.
I feel you. So how does it feel to have some big names? Like, I've always been a huge Tech N9ne fan. I think Tech N9ne is one of the most talented artists I've ever heard in my life. It's so unique, and he's been doing it for so long, and it just basically the way that he built everything on his own is so impressive to me. So what does it feel like to work with those guys and have some credits like that?
I feel just like lucky, you know. And it's like, you know, not lucky like, oh man, this just happened, but like, you know, because like it happened because of preparation. But even like, I'll tell the story of the Tech N9ne track, because like I've never met him, and I've never tried to produce for him. Cap was out in Kansas City, met Joey Cool. They hung out, and he's a cool dude. So, you know, he liked the beats I was doing for Cap. I sent him a batch of beats for his last album, Cooley High, and I did 2 beats on there off that. And one of those, he was even saying at times, like, oh, I think I'm gonna get Tech on this. I was like, oh, that's crazy. Like, you know, he's like, he's a giant of this like part of hip hop. Like, that's so crazy that it would happen that quickly. But then it ended up not being him on there. And that was a song called what's the song? Now I'm here. I can't think of it in a minute. But it had Recognize on the and Burns from Mayday on the chorus. It's track 2 on his album. But anyways, right. A hard beat. So sent Joey some other beats. You know, nothing really stuck too much. But as I've said, you know, sent emailing beats isn't really my thing. But then Joey hit me up, and he had a very specific idea. He was like, you know, because he gets beats from a lot of producers. And that's something, just a slight aside, not to get too on a tangent, but, you know, seeing the Aftermath situation, like, rappers have so many beats, and most of them are not organized. Like, there was like hundreds of beats from all our favorite producers on the computer, on the hard drive. Like, to try to place a beat with somebody without a personal connection, or without making a moment with that person that they're going to feel connected to, because, you know, if somebody's there when you make a beat, they're going to connect to it more. You know, it's not impossible. Obviously, people do it, and people make their careers and get their breaks that way. But like, it's very, very difficult. Just logistically, you look at it, and it's like, it's easy to get lost in the shuffle. So anyway, sent some beats to Joey Cool. Didn't pick any more, and then he hit me up. He wanted like a blues track with hard drums or something like that. They said. He shot me a DM. I was kind of like, okay. I'm like, don't have that, but but
I'll make it.
Yeah, exactly. So I went in to like an old session. I've done a lot of like licensing work for like TV with a guitarist, Brett Symbolic. Excuse me. So we have a lot of sessions of him doing kind of like just guitars, and I'll put like a break beat under it, like simple stuff, you know, to be on, you know, we've been on the background for like Dateline and like a bunch of like Vice and MTV shows and stuff like that.
Favorite theme song, man. I love Dateline theme song.
We didn't do the theme song.
I'm just playing.
But yeah, so I went to this, like one of the like failed sessions from that, one of the sessions that didn't work, that I didn't end up using for any of that licensing stuff. And I was listening to it. It was real bluesy. And I was like, like it didn't work at the time, but I tried just kind of resampling it and putting some new drums on it. Just some real, like I make my own drum sounds. You know how producers have drum packs that they sell. Like I got like my pack of sounds that I've made over the years that I mainly draw from. So I just put like my hardest ones on there and, you know, arranged it a little bit. There was like a harmonica in there that his roommate had played. And I was like, okay, let me maybe try to pull the harmonica in and, you know, really just play up the blues feel of this. You know, Joey's from Kansas City. Like that's, I don't have a big connection to blues music, but like I was like, you know, let me really hone in on this because that's what was asked for here. And so I really, that's a challenge I really enjoy, is like doing kind of like custom jobs. And so I think I had demo in the title. Like when I signed the paperwork, demo was still in the title of the beat. That, you know, I just sent him like I forget what the beat was called now, like Joey Blues Demo or something. And there's like official paperwork that you agreed to sell us this beat, Joey Blues Demo, you know?
Right.
And so like as soon as I sent him the demo, he was like, yep, that's it. And, you know, he told me it was going to be crazy. He told me Y2 was going to be on it. It was really dope. And then, I don't know, like 6 months later, I didn't hear anything. And then 6 months later, I just get a message out of the blue, like, yo, Tech got on it, just got it back from mastering. The joint's crazy. It's going to be the single for the album. And I'm just like, oh, wow, that's what's up.
All right.
That's, you know, and, you know, so I actually didn't hear it till it dropped because, you know, when you have a big artist like that on something, you know, labels don't really want to let it loose. So I heard it same time anybody else did that heard the album at midnight. And yeah, he killed it. The song's great. Like the video, like, I don't know, did you watch the video?
I didn't even know there was a video to it. I did not watch the video yet.
I feel like the song was arranged specifically to fit the video. The video is so dope. It's like a Peaky Blinders theme, which the whole album's Peaky Blinders theme with like the artwork and everything. But yeah, like it was a really fun challenge to make that joint. Sounds different from anything else in my catalog. But it was like, you know, my same kind of process was just trying to make a moment, you know, spent a couple hours on the beat and that was that.
That's dope. I'm just saved the video to my watch later. It's going on as soon as this episode ends.
Yeah, go watch that video.
No, for sure. But I think I found the record you were trying to talk about earlier. It's called "It's All Me." Is that the one you're thinking of?
Yeah. Yes.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
But that's cool, man. That was an incredible story. So I appreciate you sharing it. But I want to get into more a little bit about, because I know you know the whole producer versus beat maker, you know, that whole argument, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Like, and does it really matter?
It doesn't matter because if you're a beat maker and you stick with it, you're going to become a producer at some point. Yeah. If you care about what you're doing, you're going to become a producer because an artist is going to do something that's not going to sound right to you and you're going to tell them. And guess what? Then you're producing. That's
simple as that.
You know, it's like, it's a natural progression. And it's like producers are also beat makers, but not all of them are. You know, like I know we're talking about like what a Diddy and Jermaine Dupri versus. Yeah. And what the argument is that Diddy's not hitting the buttons, right? But I'm not going to be any less hype when Flavor in Your Ear comes on. I mean, that's Easy Mo B. I'd love to see Easy Mo B do a versus against somebody personally, but
that would be dope.
But I mean, you know, to sell it, to have like a big show, you have Diddy versus Jermaine Dupri. It's gonna be great. And it's like I don't think one of them is more a producer than the other.
No, I agree. And honestly, the people that waste their time on trying to figure that shit out, probably the ones that are never gonna make it anyway. So it don't matter. But,
yeah, I mean, it's like if you know, the only way somebody stays a beat maker is if they're not growing.
Yeah. Switch gears a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I've always felt like obviously artists and producers, they go hand in hand, right? But I feel like they speak completely different languages. You know, first, would you agree with that before I go any further?
Yeah, to an extent. Like, I mean, especially, you know, myself being an engineer, like that's a whole nother language because, you know, engineers are looking at levels, like it's more like mathematical almost. Like like, oh, this is too loud, when like for the artist they might be thinking, yeah, and that's exactly why I like it. You know. So like, it's not that they speak a different language, it's more of like a different dialect, because we're all
Okay.
trying to achieve the same thing. You know, we're all shooting for the same goal. It's just like, I think a lot of artists, and I actually love when artists start making beats, because of this, because they don't follow rules the same way. You know, like, and like trained musicians don't always make the best music because they're too structured, and
Sure.
like being free from structure, I think, creates some of the best music. Like, I mean, one of my favorite musicians is probably the RZA, you know, and it's like, he's not a trained musician. Like, and actually, have you watched the Wu-Tang Saga
I
show on
have,
Hulu?
man. I just watched I'm up to date now. I watched the last episode
Yeah.
yesterday.
Well, yeah. So yeah, for anybody listening to the Protect Your Neck episode, like the way they break down RZA's process for that song is, I've never seen such an artistic and great way of showing how like a sampling producer is thinking. And they did it in just like a beautiful way to just like my mom could watch that and be like, oh, you know,
I
it
thought
was
the same.
just, it was such a like outside the box way to show what producers do. And I'd recommend anybody watch that show. I mean, I'm a huge Wu-Tang fan, you know, so like I was obviously going to watch that, but it is very well done.
No, I thought the same thing about that whole episode. At first, I was like, "This is interesting. Like, I don't know if I like this," but then they kept going and deeper into it, and I was like, "You know what? This is incredible. Whoever thought of this and put this together, directed this, it was like, it was a beautiful mind, man. It
Yeah.
was like it really was like going inside someone's brain and
Yeah.
figuring out the process." So I'm with you. I'm with you. But how do you get across? Like, let's just say, for example, you have an artist that, you know, you're trying to tell them, or let's say he requests something and you're like, you know, that's probably not the best idea because of this, whatever it might be. How do you try to get across, you know, that to someone that might not fully understand everything about it?
All right, so there's two sides to that, because I'm not always right. But when I really think I'm right and I really know I'm right, I just don't do it. You know, like, you know, because sometimes people will be like, want to bring a sample to me or something, and it's like, here, sample this hit song from 1982. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Or, you know, people might be in my DMs like, yo, let's work, bro. You know, I want a beat that sounds like, not a good example because this show is hot, but like, you know, I want a beat that sounds like, you know, the Migos song or something, you know, like, and it's like, all right, well, why are you hitting me up for that? You know, or like, you know, and with artists, I feel like I just try to be patient too, where sometimes I might not like something at first, but then if I sit with it, it'll grow on me, or vice versa. You know, the artists, like, they might be, you know, they got an ego that you got to be careful of. And, you know, if you're a producer, you know, there's some psychology to it. You can't be hard-headed. Like, artists are going to be hard-headed. And if you're hard-headed too, you're gonna butt heads. You know, I think once you kind of have a track record, like somebody like Pharrell or Diddy, they can go in and be hard-headed because they got the track record. So people are kind of going to be in awe of them. But you can't just expect somebody to let go of their idea immediately because you tell them it's not it. And then, you know, sometimes we're wrong too. Like, there's like, so me and Joe Scheme, he had wanted forever to rap over, I'm drawing blanks on everything. This is like the time when I would
Okay.
Google, but my screen is you right now.
What do you need? I'll be your Google man.
Uh, who's not Minnie Riperton? Here, hold on. I am like bugging.
Hey, don't sweat it, man. My memory is probably the worst memory you ever see of any human being on planet Earth, so it don't matter.
But, you know, anyway, famous song. He wanted me to just loop it up from the rap too, and I pushed off because I was like, that doesn't sound exciting to me to just loop something. And then I did it, and he wrote a great song to it, and I was just like, oh, like, yeah, I should have just done this. And then, of course, we couldn't release the song because it was like you know, he ghost faced it. He rapped right over the original song. And but then we went and we recreated it. So that song is called Noah and Mars, and it's on his album Personal Space. Like the recreation version doesn't have any samples or anything. Like my guy Brett played all the guitars and keys on it. So it got us to this like beautiful song, but originally I didn't want to do it because I thought it was a boring idea.
I think I've always had better
Oh, it's
experiences.
Patrice Rushen. It was a Patrice Rushen song.
Ah,
That's
okay,
what it
okay,
was.
okay.
Yeah.
But I've always thought like any experience I've ever had with a producer, just relationship wise, you know what I mean? Not even outside of music. I've always felt like producers are way easier to get along with than another artist. And for that very reason, artists are super hard headed. They think everything that they, and I'm including myself in this, everything I make, I'm like, oh yeah, it's the hardest shit ever. And then I go and listen to it like 6 months later, I'm like, I don't know what the hell I was talking about. You know what I mean? So I do think it takes a special type of personality to be a producer, and I credit you for being able to, you know, separate yourself from your ego, because that's really important, I think, when you're making music, at least making good music.
I mean, I'd say it's one of my strongest traits as a producer is that I can do that. You know, if so I'm working on a track with somebody, they ask me to change the drums. Like drums are my thing, but if you ask me to change the drums, I'm going to change the drums. We're going to figure it out.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. I feel like you had another project that you told me about that I wanted to ask you about.
I mentioned Mean Joe Scheme. We put out an album December of last year, so it's been a little while now. Personal Space, and then also I have a instrumental project, Shandy, that will be releasing soon.
That's the one. Well, but first of all, I went and listened to the Mean Joe Scheme project. Incredible, well done.
Thank you.
But your instrumental project, Shandy.
Yeah.
Have you put out an instrumental project before? Or is this
I haven't. I released one instrumental single, literally the first thing I put on like streaming services.
Got you.
Long Hard Road. And like I didn't, you know, it was just kind of like, let me find out how DistroKid works. Let me find out how putting out my own music works. And so it's like nobody really listens to it. But I did actually get to, off releasing that, I did get to license it for like a movie trailer. I don't know if the movie even came out. They might have never used it, but they paid me.
Hey,
so
that's all that matters.
Yeah, so that's
great movie.
Yeah, right. That song made more money than most of my songs that people actually listen to. But so yeah, it's not something I've really gotten into or done. I don't listen to beat tapes a whole lot, but it is just being a producer and having a lot of stuff. And you know, my favorite beats don't always get picked. You know, I said how I like to make stuff on the spot with artists. But it's like, you know, when I feel the inspiration, I make stuff by myself. You know, that's what most of these beats are on Shandy.
Okay.
You know, it's stuff that I've made on my own time that I'm just like, and a couple of them have been wrapped over. But it's like, you know, stuff where I'm like, okay, you know, I haven't used this for anything, but this is dope. I want this to be out. And it's really a vibe all the way through. Like, you know, it's a quarantine album, but it's not, you know, it's instrumentals. You don't have to listen to it in that environment. And it's kind of just like I referred earlier to like 90s hip hop is like comfort food. You know, this is a very like comfort food ass project for me. Like something you can, you know, Shandy's like a light kind of like fruity beer. I'm not a big beer drinker at this point. You know, I'm more whiskey guy. But like, you know, every once in a while I like the nice lemon shandy or something, sit out on the back porch and relax. And that's what this album makes me think of. It's light and airy, but it's also real gritty and like, you know, hard drums. And it just gives another, it goes well with my catalog with Mean Joe Scheme, like sound wise, but it's something different and it all flows together. I think it's 10 tracks. We shot a little video for it too.
Okay. So what's the goal behind an instrumental project?
I don't have a goal for it. I'll be honest.
There you
go. Like the goal for that is just to put it out and put beautiful music out in the world. And then, you know, it's like some things ironically, you know, my day job, I work in like marketing, but I'm not a marketing genius. You know, I'm good at like, I'm very good at logistics and like making sure things are where they're supposed to be. You know, those skills that I learned in music. You know, I never had a real job until the beginning of last year. And so a lot of the skills I learned kind of helped me out, but like marketing myself is probably not my best trait. So like putting this project out, I'm not like, oh, I have a set goal. It's kind of just, I want people, anybody who comes across me, they can play that whatever they pick, it's going to be something hot that represents me well. That's all I really want, and this contributes to that goal.
That's dope. That's dope. I honestly see there's always a market for everything. I mean, I know I've listened to, you know, instrumental projects before myself, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't really, or a lot of producers don't really even look into. Like, I barely ever see an instrumental project from you know, any producers, honestly. Maybe it's because I'm not looking. I don't know.
Well, it's kind of a scene. So like, you got like a couple. I got, you know, some homies out here like Nothing New. I got Some Total, Madison Snare Garden, like Melton. You know, like they, you know, there's kind of like a beat scene coming up in New York, similar to like what's in LA with like DiBiase, Flying Lotus,
Okay.
stuff like that. And like, so, you know, it's a different style of production. Like, it's not, you don't need to have an MC on it. You know, I feel like a lot of like our favorite producers growing up, like I don't think High Tech's ever released like an instrumental project. I'd love to hear that. You know, DJ Premier did one, but it was like, you know, it wasn't like the instrumentals that are out. Alchemist always did The Rappers Are Our Best Friend.
That's true.
So that had a lot of his biggest beats on it. So those were always really dope to me. But that's a beat tape though. That's like, here are these beats that rappers can rap to, and mine's somewhere in between. It's somewhat of like the listening experience of like the beat scene stuff, and then, but it's still it's a little more straightforward than those. It's not, you know, so like it's a little more rooted in like boom bap production.
Got you. Are you like open to somebody, if say some name reached out to you and say, hey, I love that beat, I want to like make a record over that? Or would you be open to that? All right, well,
sure.
Any rappers listening? Exactly. Obviously.
You know, like, I mean, that's how a lot of like Knowledge, you know, what was the joint Mama for Kendrick Lamar, I think that he did, like that was off his Bandcamp page. You know, like Mos Def's whole Ecstatic album, which I love, you know, was a lot of Madlib and Oh No beats off their beat albums. So like that's something, that's not really a goal of doing this, but that's definitely something I'm aware of that can happen with having a beat album out there.
Yeah.
You know, like I know I've already sent it to a couple well-known rapper friends, and they've kind of liked a couple of the beats. So, you know, who knows what'll happen with those.
No. I think it's I don't know, actually freestyling for artists is kind of like a lost art. I don't know anybody that does it anymore, honestly. Like, and
Cap is great off the top.
Well, I can see that from Cap, and then there's artists that are incredible at it. I just don't. I don't be around them. I wish I was, but yeah, man. I can't wait for anything you touch now, because honestly, like I said, I've listened through your entire catalog. Almost. I don't want to be lying, but pretty close. I will get through the entire catalog soon, but I think you're a super talented dude, and like I just said, there's something about your sound that it just hits me in the soul. And I love it. But yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, I
try to all music is soul music if it feels authentic.
100%. I agree with that. But yeah, I try to cap these at an hour, and we're a little bit over now.
Oh yeah. No, I should go say goodnight to
for sure. You guys kids, man, more important stuff. But
we finished reading. We were reading a book last night, and we finished that. So at least I'm off the hook on that. I get it like a couple nights off before we get the next book.
What book?
I never remember the title. It's a Magnus Chase series. It's like the follow up to Percy Jackson.
Oh, I got you. All right, Percy Jackson. All right.
Some kid who's like the son of like a Norse god saves the world.
Yeah, a lot of that cool stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he saves the world. If you haven't read it, you know, I don't want to spoil it.
I'm sure he does. He does.
But yeah, that's something to try to make time for every night usually.
But yeah, man, I appreciate you joining me. Hold on one second, and I'll talk to you a little bit after we sign off here. But everybody listening, I appreciate you listening. If you have not checked out any of Optiks' work yet, go do it right now. I don't know what the hell you're waiting for. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
everything's on Spotify. I got some nice organized playlists so you can hear my work with whatever, you know, production work with artists that maybe you wouldn't know I did.
Exactly. But I want to just turn it over to you if you have anything to say to the fans. What's a message you want to put out there, and then we'll take it out.
Yeah, just, you know, follow at This Is Optiks on all platforms, OPTIKS, and support great music. And support just meaning however you do that. If listening to it's how you support it, listen to it. If buying it, you going to shows, whatever it is, just, or, you know, if you got a homie who's dope, tell them they're dope.
I agree, and I've said this many times on this podcast. I feel like being a fan of music is an art in itself, and it's a lost art at that. Yeah. I'm trying to bring it back.
Well, yeah, I kind of see it because I know I just did my little research before we did this, you know, so I see you're an artist as well, but it's like, you know, you're doing a lot of work with the podcast and you know, the Instagram to like show love to other artists, and I think that's really dope. I always try to do that, you know, like, and people aren't always used to it, so they really appreciate it.
Exactly. I appreciate you again, even looking into myself. I make music, but I make music for myself, and I just love music, man. I just want to do this for fun. I wish there was more people like that, but
that comes across with what you're doing, man.
For sure. But again, thanks for coming on, taking the time. Everyone listening, thank you. I love you all, and I will see you next time.